Hi, everybody. I'm C, and it is good to be with you. I am an alcoholic and addict, and recently I celebrated the miracle of 20 years of unbroken clean time, and it is a miracle. And I'll say more about this miracle. I am one of millions. The purpose of these videos is to take a look at addiction, particularly the addiction to drugs and other substances. And to do that, we're going to look at the 12 steps of NA, which are very similar to the 12 steps of AA. The message in all of this is that recovery is possible. I'll say that quite a few times. Recovery is possible. There are more than 58,000 weekly NA meetings today, and NA stands for Narcotics Anonymous. In 1982, the World Service Conference, the year the World Service Conference approved the basic text, there were about 2,700. NA is now in 131 countries and is spoken in 65 different languages. So we've come from 2,700 weekly meetings to 58,000. We come from every walk of life. Narcotics Anonymous was founded in July 1953 and has grown and grown and grown because, unfortunately, the need for NA has grown and grown and grown. In NA, we follow a program adapted from Alcoholics Anonymous. More than 1 million people have recovered in AA, most of them just as hopefully addicted to alcohol as we were to drugs. We are grateful to the AA Fellowship for showing us the way to a new life. The 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, as adapted from AA, are the basis of our recovery program. We have only broadened their perspective. To recover, we tell our stories. And in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which was the first basic text, it says our stories are told in a general way. And I'm going to stick with the general way. As a woman of a certain age, when I'm in meetings today, I think, woo, that is a lot of oversharing. But you know what? If they are in that room and they are clean and sober, it's fine with me. But I'm going to stick with the general way. I'm assuming that most of the people who will see this video series are adults, but there may be an 11-year-old or a 9-year-old who stumbles upon these videos, someone who desperately loves their mommy or daddy or pop-pop or mom, and they want to know that there is help for the one they love. So I want this to be available to that 9-year-old or 11-year-old and to everybody of every age. One of the questions is, what does an addict look like? There are an awful lot of people out there who know what an addict looks like, or they think they know. Because what they think is what they see on television programs and in movies and documentaries. Maybe they pass them on the street. They're thinking about the heroin addict who was over there nodding off, under the building. They're thinking about the alcoholics who live under the bridge. That's what an addict looks like, right? An addict doesn't look like, a woman of a certain age like myself. That's what an addict looked like to an awful lot of people until one of our former First Ladies, Betty Ford, admitted that she had a problem with alcohol and drugs, especially prescription drugs. She had a serious addiction to prescription drugs. She admitted she was powerless and she got help, and she started her own clinic. Personally, I was introduced to recovery in 1985. Hold that thought, because I just said that I had 20 years of recovery. And if you're good with math in your head, you know that that's more than 20 years ago. But I was first introduced in 1985. And I was introduced because my employer sent me. I was crashing and burning, one horrible day at a time, crashing and burning. And my employer intervened and said, if it's medical, get help. We will pay for it. If it's medical, get help. We will pay for whatever help you need. If it is medical, get help. They kept saying that because they didn't want to get into any trouble with, lawsuits or that kind of thing. So they were very careful about the language. If it's medical, get help. It turns out it was medical. I did get help. I went to rehab, and that is where I learned what was wrong with me. Because up until then, I honestly did not know what was wrong with me. I did not know why my life had descended into the hell that it was. I thought I was just going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind. I did not know that I had a disease. I did not understand what was happening in my mind and my body and my spirit. All I knew was that I needed more and more and more of what had been my friend, but had turned into my worst enemy. And that's called tolerance. Who is an addict? They're all around us. And unless they're putting needles in their arms or you're watching them swallowing handfuls of pills, you may not even know, but we know. As addicts, we are people whose use of any mind-altering, mood-changing substance causes a problem in any area of life. Addiction is a disease that involves more than the use of drugs. Some of us believe that our disease was present long before the first time we used. I'm one of those people who believes that. Most of us did not consider ourselves addicted before coming to the Narcotics Anonymous program. As long as we could stop using for a while, we thought we were all right. We looked at the stopping, not the using. As our addiction progressed, we thought of stopping less and less. Only in desperation did we ask ourselves, could it be the drugs? Could it be the booze? We did not choose to become addicts. It is so important for you to understand that. Whether you are someone who is struggling with addiction or whether you love someone who is struggling with addiction, we do not choose to become addicts. No one would choose this for their life. We suffer from a disease that expresses itself in ways that are antisocial and that makes detection, diagnosis, and treatment difficult. Our disease is a disease of isolation, guilt, shame, and isolation. It isolates us from the people that we care about. It isolates us from pretty much everybody, except the people that we need when we're getting, using, finding drugs to get more and more and more. We become hostile, resentful, self-centered, self-seeking. We cut ourselves off from the outside world. Our world just shrinks and shrinks, and isolation becomes our way of life. After a while, drugs, alcohol, whatever the addiction is what we need to survive. It's the only way of life that we know. We did not want to be addicts. I certainly did not want. I grew up with two alcoholic parents, a mother and a stepfather. They died in their disease. They never did get help, or at least I should say they never did stop. From time to time, somebody did try to help them, but they weren't open to it. And nobody can recover from addiction until they are ready. All the rehabs in the world will not help them. We have to be ready. But I looked at my alcoholic mother and stepfather, and what I knew was that I was never going to be like them. I saw the chaos that ensued in their lives, and I was not going to have that. I had a fantasy version of the life that I was going to live when I got away from these crazy people. And I left home at the tender age of 17 to fulfill my dream. I didn't want to look back. I did not want to be like them. One of the things that I hope happens in this series is that you will get some resources that may be of help to you. If you are an addicted person, I hope you have already heard Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous several times by now. If you do not know where to find them, a simple internet search will take you right to the website of Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous. There will be a meeting list there. There will be a telephone number there. It's all there. If you are not the addict, if you're someone who loves an addict or an addicted person, there is help for you as well. For those whose focus is mostly alcohol, there's an organization called Al-Anon, Al-Anon. There's also an organization called Nar-Anon, which is for persons who are the family, supporters, or friends of people suffering from drug addiction. Nar-Anon, Al-Anon or Nar-Anon. Again, an internet search will take you to those websites, and there will be lots of help and hope for you there. Addiction isolates us. Our world shrinks. I used alcohol and drugs to survive. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says that what is required is a complete psychic change. So that means there has to be a change in my mind. One of the things that I learned in rehab, and then I learned it in the rooms, and I've learned it as I've grown up, is that one aspect of my addiction was my inability to deal with life on life's terms. We hear that a lot in the rooms, life on life's terms. To this day, I kind of marvel at people who know how to do that. They don't need 12-step recovery. They don't need therapy. They don't need rehab. Somehow they grow up and they grow into adulthood and they know how to deal with life on life's terms. They don't have to run from it, escape from it, deaden some part of themselves in order to be able to do that. They simply have coping skills. I wasn't one of those people. I have an incurable disease. It will never go away. There is no cure for it, but recovery is possible. My addiction can be arrested. It has been arrested. My addiction enslaved me. And one of my mantras as a recovering person is, I want to be free. That is why I am in recovery, because I want to be free. I was a prisoner of my own mind. I was condemned by my own guilt and shame. And at a point, I gave up hope that I could ever stop. My attempts to stop, my attempts to control, my attempts to do better today failed again and again and again. It caused me misery and pain, and it caused pain to the people around me, the people who loved me, the people I worked with. It just caused pain and misery. But there is a solution, and the solution is the 12-step programs of Al-Anon and Nar-Anon for me. Now, I have to say, I am a religious person, and you do not need to be a religious person to recover from addiction, and I'll say more about that. But I happen to be a religious person. But just going to church did not save me. I mean, I went to church every week. I was one of those people who was there every Sunday. Even if I was on vacation, I found some place to worship while I was away. I taught Bible study at my church. I was very active in my church, but it didn't save me. It didn't stop me. It wasn't until I found this 12-step recovery program that everything that my faith tradition was trying to teach me all of a sudden made sense. That's when it all came together and I could begin to heal body, mind, and spirit. The first step is we admitted we were powerless over our addiction, that our lives have become unmanageable. That first word is we. And I was not fond of that when I saw it, because I was not a weak kind of person. I just wasn't. There was a song that was popular years ago, Barbara Streisand made it popular, called People Who Need People. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. I didn't think so. I mean, I viscerally hated that song. When I heard that, it just made me sick. I hated that song. People who need people are the luckiest people in the world. I didn't think so. I wanted to be by myself. I wanted to be a person to live by my own life. I didn't want to be part of this we who admitted I was powerless. Who wants to be powerless? I did not want to be powerless over anything, and that my life had become unmanageable. I mean, yeah, I was about to lose my job, but I mean, there was still some hope left, right? Actually, no. Step one is an acknowledgement of the situation. As I said before, my disease isolated me. Our disease isolated us from people, except when we were getting, using, and finding ways to get more. I did not want to be powerless. And I didn't want to be part of a we and an our, but that is exactly what saved me. There's a Catholic priest named Father Martin, and there is a rehab named after him. And he did a bunch of chalk talks years ago. And in one of those chalk talks, he gives an example of a boxing ring. He talks about getting into that ring over and over and over again, thinking it's going to be different this time. You know, there comes a point where we need to get out of the ring. But every day of my life, I got up and I thought, well, today will be different. Today, I'll try this. I'll use differently. I'll drink later. I mean, I just had all of these fantasies about how today was going to be different. I was going to get in that ring, and today was going to be the day that I actually won a round. It did not happen. The first step says that our lives become unmanageable. And even though I still had a job, although barely, I mean, I still had a home, I had the things that were supposed to matter. But the thing about addiction is a mental thing before it becomes a physical thing. Alcohol and drugs occupies 90% of the addict's mind when we are using. 90% of what is going on with us mentally has to do with whatever it is we are addicted to. In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says that the alcoholic drinks essentially because they love the effect produced by alcohol. They love the sense of ease and comfort that comes at once. In NA, we say that we are always chasing that first high. We're always trying to get back there. The problem with it is that after weeks, months, years, for some people, that sense of ease and comfort doesn't last very long. And the memory of that first high just continues to elude us. We cannot get it back. As one speaker says, once I start, I can't stop, and I can't stop from starting. We're going to be talking about drug addiction and alcohol addiction in this series, but to be fair, there are lots of kinds of addictions. Gambling, spending, overeating, smoking, overspending, sex and intimacy. There are all kinds of addictions. During COVID, a new 12-step program was started based on Alcoholics Anonymous for persons who were addicted to technology. I thought that was interesting. An awful lot of people in the lockdown were finding themselves unable to step away from their games or their technology. Their lives have become unmanageable. So there are all kinds of addictions. So it may be that you may be watching this because a loved one is a drug addict, but just be open to the possibility that there may be some inclinations in your own life to avoid, to deaden. Remember that before we pick up the substance, what makes us different is our inability to deal with life on life's terms. And so the spending addict may go out and do a little recreational shopping, but it doesn't destroy their life. But there might be somebody who is destroying their life with spending money that they don't have to impress people they don't know. But this series is specifically about drug and alcohol addiction. I hope that you find something in this series that can help you or the person you love to recover. Because recovery is possible. Through these 12 spiritual steps, recovery is possible. We will pick up next time on step 2.